people, the Anu, the original inhabitants of southern China. When I went to China, I traveled into the interior, and there was a whole village of black people with flat face, slanty eyes, thick lips, big nose, look just like Africans. The only difference is that they also look like the Chinese, or the Chinese look like them. When I asked them when did they get there, they said they were there before the Chinese. And they also had an interior art. They weren't taking Chinese kung fu. They had their own martial science.
Let me ask you, hasn't there been research lately that determined Europeans are descendants of Neanderthals?
Yes.
Talk about that.
That's the latest research. I've been talking about this for over 25 years. See, we have to clearly, as the Africans left, Diop is probably the best to talk about this. Can you just pause for just 1 second? In 1974, Diop challenged UNESCO and the whole Egyptology world. Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop and Theo Bengal challenged all of them. And they came with their books, they came with their artifacts, they came with DNA samples of the mummies. They came prepared. The Egyptologists just showed up with their white skin and thought that was enough. And they got spanked. At UNESCO, they proved that the ancient Egyptians were African people, or black-skinned people. Number two, they proved that the language, Madunecha, linguistic, was African, and can be found in the basic Bantu languages throughout Africa. And he took many samples of African language and showed where those words still exist today, even used the same way they were in ancient Yemen. So the people were black, melanated people. Number two, their language was African. Their spirituality, all of the spiritual paraphernalia of ancient Kemet came from the interior, from the burning of the frankincense and the myrrh, the wearing of the leopard skin, the rituals that they went through can be found as South Africa, East Africa, West Africa, throughout there, the same rituals presented. So they proved that the spiritual system of ancient Kemet was African. The deities, if they looked at all the statues, were African. All the animals were from Africa. No Asia, wasn't no Asiatic, it wasn't no camel in there. There was no Indian elephants. Everything was from the African continent, from the interior of Africa. So they proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the culture of the ancient Kemet, the ancient Egyptians, was African. And they showed from their clothes to the way they worshipped, their family habits, their agriculture habits, the cattle that they had, the plants that they grew, all came from the interior of Africa, not from Asia or Europe. So it was clear. So culturally, linguistically, spiritually, architecturally, every phenomena showed that the ancient Egyptians were African people and that everything that we know about Egypt came from the interior. Diop proved this beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Even their descendancy,
matrilineal system coming from the woman. Thank you very much. All shown, especially in ancient Kush, which was the main, ancestors of the ancient. They still had a matrilineal. In ancient Kush, in some cases, they had just as many women rulers as they had men, and in some areas, more women rulers than men. And so, and even in Kemet, the throne was passed through the woman. Aset is the throne maker, and that's what she wears, the throne on her head. And so all dealing, and just the way the ancient Africans treated their women. Total respect. Not like Asiatics or Europeans or anybody else on the planet.